starting with the first MCQ. Which of the following statements correctly applies in the POTS fracture and dislocation? 4 options are there. Foot is forcefully dorsiflexed, foot is forcefully plantar flexed, foot is forcefully inverted, foot is forcefully everted. 4 options are there and you have to mark the correct answer. Okay. So firstly, I would like to describe POTS fracture and again I will come to this MCQ. So starting with the explanation of this MCQ. So as in the diagram you can see, there is fracture of the talus lower end and also the fracture of the fibula. Actually, in POTS fracture what happens, there is forceful eversion force is applied and then the fracture occurs in the lower end of the talus and fibula. Actually, it occurs in 3 stages. Okay. So this is the diagram. Here you can see the diagram included is of POTS fracture as shown in the diagram. Okay, and injury is caused by combined abduction and external rotation, which is due to eversion force. What is the force? The force is eversion force. Okay, so let's see the few important points about POTS fracture. So please write down these points. These are important points. Okay, so injury is caused by a combined abduction plus external rotation. So there is a combined abduction and external rotation which occurs from which type of force is applied, so which occurs from an eversion force. So I think eversion was the option given. So this would be the correct answer to the MCQ. The force applied is eversion force. Now what is important in the POTS fracture is that the injury occurs in 3 stages, POTS fracture 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So there are 3 degrees of POTS fracture. So write down the details. There are 3 degrees of POTS fracture. So starting with the first degree. So when we talk about the first, it is oblique fracture. The first is the oblique fracture. So it is the oblique fracture of lateral malleolus. Okay, lateral malleolus means lower end of the fibula. So lateral malleolus malleolar fracture. Due to, what is the reason? It occurs due to internal rotation. It occurs due to internal rotation of tibia. Means tibia is internally rotated and because of that internal rotation there is oblique fracture of lateral malleolus. So lateral malleolar means the lower end of fibula. Now coming to the second degree, that is the transverse fracture, in which there is transverse fracture. And this transverse fracture occurs on the medial malleolus. So it occurs of the medial malleolus. Okay. Due to the pull of strong deltoid ligament. The reason is the pull of strong medial collateral ligament of the ankle joint, which is also called as the deltoid ligament. So transverse fracture of the medial malleolus due to pull of strong deltoid ligament. Okay. Now coming to the third degree. So the third degree is fracture of posterior margin of lower end of tibia. So there is fracture of lower end of tibia, that is forming the third malleolus, that is forming third malleolus. So when there is involvement of also the posterior margin of lower end of tibia, these type of fracture together is called as trimalleolar fracture. So when all the 3 parts are involved, so these type of fracture is called as trimalleolar fracture. Yes, so we have done with the explanation of the first MCQ. Again, I am moving to the MCQ. Which of the following statement correctly applies the Pott's fracture and dislocation? The correct answer is the foot is forcefully everted. The foot is forcefully everted. So in the first explanation only I told, when there is a forceful eversion force applied, there will be abduction. Okay, there will be combined abduction and external rotation, which will cause Pott's fracture. Okay, now moving to the second MCQ. Which cutaneous nerve is derived from ophthalmic nerve? So for the proper explanation of these MCQ, for the proper application of these MCQ, you have to know about ophthalmic nerve, which is one of the division from the trigeminal nerve. Okay, so firstly coming to the explanation. So see this diagram. This is a schematic diagram in which you can see that trigeminal ganglion is there. From the trigeminal ganglion, what happens? Three divisions of trigeminal ganglion emerges out. One is ophthalmic nerve, other is maxillary, and the third one is the mandibular. So let's come to the discussion of the first, that is ophthalmic nerve. Ophthalmic nerve will give its three primary branches, that is lacrimal, frontal and nasociliary. Lacrimal, frontal and nasociliary. Lacrimal branch will go towards the lacrimal gland as shown in the diagram. The frontal, as you can see, will divide into supratrochlear and supraorbital nerve, and all the green color branches which is shown in the diagram are the branches from the nasociliary branch of ophthalmic nerve, that is long ciliary nerve, posterior ethmoidal nerves, anterior ethmoidal nerves and infratrochlear. Okay, so the option which was given was external nasal, that is actually the terminal branch of anterior ethmoidal nerve. So let's write down all the important points so that you can retain it for longer duration in your brain. So ophthalmic nerve is a branch of trigeminal nerve, no doubt. Yes, it is a branch from trigeminal nerve, and this trigeminal nerve is giving three important branches, that is frontal nerve, the lacrimal nerve and the nasociliary nerve. Okay. Okay, now coming to the individual description of the nerves. Okay, so starting with the nasociliary. Nasociliary nerve. Now nasociliary nerve is giving following branches. It is giving anterior ethmoidal nerve. The branches of nasociliary nerves are following: anterior ethmoidal nerve, posterior ethmoidal nerve, also infratrochlear nerve, and long ciliary nerve. Okay, so these are the branches of nasociliary nerve, and anterior ethmoidal nerve terminal branch is called as external nasal. So write down external nasal is, write down the details. External nasal nerve is actually terminal branch from anterior ethmoidal nerve. It's a terminal branch from anterior ethmoidal nerve. So done with the one branch, that is nasociliary. Now coming into the description of other two branches. So the other two branches are frontal and lacrimal. So lacrimal nerve, as you can see in the diagram, it's going to supply the lacrimal gland, and the frontal again divides into supraorbital and supratrochlear. Okay. Yes, so coming to the description of this. Which cutaneous nerve is derived from ophthalmic nerve? The correct answer is external nasal nerve. Actually, this is a branch from nasociliary nerve, and actually this is the branch from nasociliary nerve, terminal branch, and nasociliary nerve is a branch of ophthalmic nerve, and ophthalmic nerve is a division of trigeminal nerve. So done with the description of the second MCQ also. Moving to the third MCQ. Now, which of the following is a wrong statement regarding middle ear cavity? So we have to mark the wrong statements regarding the middle ear cavity. Okay. So starting with the discussion of this. So 4 options are there. Narrowest part is mesotympanum. B is foot plate of the stapes, whether lies in the epitympanum or not, and the coda tympanic nerve is a content of epitympanum, and Tony B's muscle is a content of middle ear cavity or not. So 4 options are there, and for solving this MCQ, it is important for you to know the subdivision of middle ear cavity. So let's see a schematic diagram which will help you to understand the middle ear cavity subdivisions. So please see this diagram. Can you see? A middle ear cavity is divided in respect to that of tympanic membrane. So let me just highlight tympanic membrane with a green color. So this is the tympanic membrane which I am highlighting it. Okay, so this is the tympanic membrane which I am highlighting. Now, in respect to the tympanic membrane, the middle ear cavity, this is TM, means tympanic membrane. Let me just enlarge this diagram. Okay, TM means tympanic membrane. Okay, so the part of the middle ear cavity which is lying above this is called as epitympanum. The part of the middle ear cavity which is lying just opposite to it is mesotympanum, and the part of middle ear cavity which is lying below it is called as hypotympanum in respect to the tympanic membrane or eardrum of the middle ear cavity. Okay, which is forming the lateral end of middle ear cavity. Now I want to describe the important contents of these 3 parts, that is epitympanum, mesotympanum, and that of hypotympanum. So yes, we have seen already the division. So write down the heading. Epitympanum. Okay, epitympanum. What it contains? It is the part which is lying above tympanic membrane. So it's the part lying above tympanic membrane. I am writing in just short form. And containing, what it contains? It contains following important structures. So it is containing following important structure. It is containing head of malleus, body and short process of incus, and also the nerve. Which nerve? Write down coda tympanic nerve. Okay, coda tympanic nerve. Yes. Now moving to the next important part, that is mesotympanum. The mesotympanum part of the middle ear cavity is lying just opposite to tympanic membrane, located just opposite to tympanic membrane. TM again for the tympanic membrane. Actually, it is the narrowest part of the tympanic cavity. It's the narrowest part of middle ear or tympanic cavity. And what it contains? It contains following structure. It contains neck of malleus, long process of incus, and also the smallest ear ossicles, that is stapes. Okay, so done with the mesotympanum. Now moving to the hypotympanum. Now hypotympanum part is lying below the level of tympanic membrane, and not much of important structures lies here. Now one more thing which was given in the MCQ was Tony B's muscle. Actually, Tony B muscle means the tensor tympani muscle. Okay, So Tony B's muscle means tensor tympani muscle, and two muscles of the middle ear cavity are Tony B's muscle means tensor tympani muscle, and two important muscles of middle ear cavity is one is tensor tympani and other is stapedius muscle, which is required for dampening down the loud sound which is coming inside the middle ear cavity. So yes, we have done with the explanation, and now just moving to see which is the correct. Which of the following is a wrong statement regarding middle ear cavity? Narrowest part is mesotympanum. No doubt it is absolutely correct. Yes, the narrowest part of middle ear cavity is mesotympanum. Option B, food plate of stapes lies in epitympanum. So this is the wrong option, as we have seen the description. Food plate of stapes is actually lying in mesotympanum and not in the epitympanum. Coda tympanic nerve is a content of epitympanum. Yes, it is also correct. Tony B's muscle, which means tensor tympani muscle, and tensor tympani muscle along with stapedius muscle, these two muscles are contents of middle ear cavity. So yes, food plate of stapes lies in the mesotympanum. So this is the wrong option, and in the MCQ it has been asked to know which is the wrong. Okay, so option B is the correct answer. So now moving to the next MCQ. Which of the following muscle produces intorsion of eyeball? Intorsion. Which of the following muscle is producing intorsion of the eyeball? So it is important to know firstly the extraocular muscles function. So it's let's discuss in short. Actually, this is the diagram in which you can see, this is a schematic diagram in which you are seeing following movements are possible in the eyeball. The elevation and depression. Okay, elevation and depression movement is taking place across transverse axis. Then we have got lateral and that of medial rotation, that is called as abduction and adduction, and that means lateral movement of the eyeball and the medial movement of eyeball, and this is occurring along vertical axis. So we have left with intorsion and extorsion, and intorsion and extorsion means internal and external rotation of the eyeball, and this movement occurs along AP axis, antero-posterior axis. When the eyeball is rotated in outward direction, that is called as extorsion, and when the eyeball is rotated in inward direction, that is called as intorsion. So now moving to the individual action of each muscle, and then we will be able to solve this MCQ. So starting with medial rectus muscle and that of lateral rectus muscle. So very easy, medial rectus muscle and lateral muscle. So both of this perform the action according to its name. Medial rectus will cause medial rotation, that is adduction. So it is causing prime movement is adduction, and lateral rotation is caused by causing abduction movement. Lateral rectus is causing abduction movement. So altogether we have got 7 extraocular muscles. So we have done with the first and the second. There is one more extraocular muscle that is called as LPS. What do you mean by LPS? Levator palpebral superioris muscle. This muscle is involved in elevation of the eyelid. So it will cause elevation of eyelid. Okay. Now moving to the group of other muscles. So we have got 2 more rectus and 2 oblique muscles. So one is superior rectus and the other is inferior rectus. Superior rectus and inferior rectus. Okay. So superior rectus and inferior rectus. Superior rectus, according to name, it will cause elevation. Inferior rectus will cause depression. And along with it, it will also perform some of the other movements, that is adduction and intorsion. Adduction and intorsion. And that of inferior rectus will cause extorsion, just opposite to its name, plus adduction movement. Okay, so what you can say about these 2 muscles? The rectus, superior rectus, according to its name, is only causing elevation and depression. Rest all, that is adduction and intorsion, is just opposite to its name. Now the 2 oblique muscles, superior and inferior oblique, is performing superior oblique and that of inferior oblique. Both of these muscles are performing the action just opposite to their name. So what is the action? So superior oblique is performing intorsion, abduction, and depression, just opposite to its name. Inferior oblique is performing extorsion plus abduction movement and plus elevation movement, just opposite to their name. Okay, so we have done with the action of all the individual extraocular muscles. So let's move to the MCQ. Which of the following is producing intorsion? So we are knowing that intorsion movement which is occurring at the AP axis is just movement is done by opposite to its name. So it will be performed by superior rectus and superior oblique. So let's see whether it is in the option. Yes, option A is the correct. Superior rectus and superior oblique muscle will cause intorsion of eyeball. Now moving to the next MCQ. Triangle of Koch is bounded by all except. So options are: A is coronary sinus, B is tendon of Toledo, C is septal leaflet of tricuspid valve, and D is superior vena cava. So let's see where is the triangle of Koch located. So this is a cadaveric image in which you can highlight the triangle of Koch. So here what you can see, this is the area, dotted area which is shown in this diagram. Let me just highlight it with pink color. So this area which you are seeing is the triangle of Koch. This area is triangle of Koch. Okay, so it is important because it contains an important valve, that is AV node. It contains important AV node. Okay, so we have seen with this boundaries. Now it is bounded anteriorly. If I talk about anterior, so it is bounded anteriorly by, so let me just show you. I will write on the other paper. So like see here, this is tricuspid valve as shown in the diagram. So tricuspid valve is the septal leaflet of tricuspid valve, which was shown by the arrow. Actually this is forming its anterior border. Superiorly it is bounded by tendon of Toledo. Superiorly it is bounded by tendon of Toledo, that is subendocardial thickening. And postero-inferiorly it is bounded by the opening of coronary sinus. So in this diagram you can just see this opening. This opening is of coronary sinus and this is lying postero-inferiorly. And what is important structure lying in it is the AV node. Okay, so write down boundaries of triangle of Koch. Okay, it is bounded anteriorly by septal leaflets of tricuspid valve, yeah, superiorly by subendocardial thickening, that is subendocardial thickening, that is tendon of Toledo. Now we have done with anterior and superiorly. Now moving to postero-inferior border. Postero-inferiorly it is bounded by opening of coronary sinus. And why it is important to know its boundaries? Because it contains an important anatomical structure. So what is contained inside the triangle of Koch? So it contains AV node. Done with this. So let's see. Okay, so all of the following is forming the boundaries of triangle of Koch, except the correct answer will be superior vena cava. So superior vena cava, as you have seen in the description, it is not forming the boundary. Rest all coronary sinus, tendon of Toledo, septal leaflet of tricuspid valve is forming the boundaries. Okay.